This is the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. Here's your host, Jessica Coody, and Husker Radio Network analyst, Jeremiah Sirles.
Welcome back into another victory episode of the Sideline Slice with Big Dog Jeremiah Sirles. I'm Jessica Coody, and another win, 2-0 Sirles.
Not just a win. That was a shellacking.
Yeah.
That was just like throw the white flag and let's just try again next week, Akron. That was as bad of a kicking in that I've seen in a long time for the Huskers. And that's what it's supposed to look like. Like, I can remember when we used to play those games, like 2012, we put up 70 on Idaho State, right? And we emptied the bench, we got everyone in, and that's what these games are meant for, right? They're tune-up games. They're meant for the starters to go out there and look like Power 4 starters, and meant for the backups to go out there and cut their teeth. That's what was most exciting for me for this game, is we took care of business how we were supposed to do it.
We got a couple people commenting about just, the scheduling, but I think it was good. You had your, close game against the Power 4 in Cincinnati, and then you go back to this. You get done what you need to get done here in this one against Akron, and then you keep building going into the Big Ten play. Do you have any problem with how this schedule was set up this year?
No, absolutely not. I think that it's always good to cut your teeth against a Power 4 opponent early in the season, right? Out of conference, Cincinnati's a good one there, right? But these are these games where you have to be careful, right? Because there's this fine line of inviting in a team that you're going to beat up on, but it's going to be like it was against Akron, right? Just an absolute shellacking. But then there's this other part of it where you bring in a team like Army, looking at you, K-State, right? Or you bring in like a North Dakota State where they're up top of the echelon of the league below, and they might press you and bring you into deep water. So I would rather stay away from those games. Like, it does no good to bring in the high-level group of 5 or the high-level FCS team, because it's a no-win situation. You either beat the living crap out of them, and it's like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, or they drag you into the deep water, and maybe you squeak one out, or maybe they get one on you, and then it's a lose, like, oh, my gosh, this team's terrible. So I agree. If you're going to schedule a tune-up game like this, go get the middle-of-the-road MAC team, go get the middle-of-the-road FCS team, and treat it as a true, like, preseason tune-up type of football game. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Ohio State does it, right? Everyone across the country does it, and there's a reason for it. A, it helps fund those lower-level teams, right? Those are big paydays that those schools count on, and it allows you to work the kinks out before you head into Big Ten play.
At least Nebraska's and the Big Tens are in September and not November.
Yeah, the SEC just cheats, and they're like, "Oh, we need a second bye week in September." Looking at you, Kyle.
Well, hey, I 33-0 at the half, right? And I know you saw and probably were absolutely fired up about Coach Rhule's halftime speech that's out there. But when he came out at half, he was not happy when I talked to him. And here's a team that it's again shut out through the first, and yeah, they kicked a field goal, missed it, but he was not happy. He told me that he let him have it, and then he talked about it in the press conference, and then the videos leaked. I'm sure that fired you up a little bit.
Oh, are you kidding me? I think I posted on Twitter, injected into my veins, right? Like, I loved that, right? Because he hits on all the points that I think are a plague in college football right now, right? When he talks about the guys coming in and checking themselves out in the mirror and doing all that stuff, where that's not what football is about. Football is a tough guy sport. Football is about brutally assaulting the person across from you for 60 minutes, and it's legal to do it. And that is what the primal part of this sport is, and that's what you see really good teams do, right? And it can't matter if it's Akron or it's Ohio State. The mindset is the culture, and the mindset that is the culture is the standard. And I think Matt Rhule, what he's building here is that culture. And I'm so happy about that, because if that becomes the culture, you're no longer talking about that stuff being a problem, right? That stuff is just the norm. And now you can focus on the bigger issues and the bigger things that come up, not worrying about our guys doing the right things in the locker room at halftime, our guys doing the right things during the week. Are they going to class, right? all that becomes part of the culture. And that was the message that Matt Rhule sent there at halftime. And I loved it. I mean, I sent it to like a bunch of former players were circulating it around. We hit it up. I had it in like 3 or 4 group chats that got hit it up. Every single person was like, this is what we needed. I love this about Coach Rhule. I love the mindset. I love the culture, because that's what winning football is about.
It's that killer mentality, right? I mean, to put your foot on their neck, and it's like, yes, you are dominating and you should dominate Akron, but if you don't do it every single week, it won't carry over into the weeks when they are closer, right? I mean, you were part of teams that had that mentality. I've covered teams that were part of that you finish them, and it doesn't matter if you're not doing it against Akron, then how are you going to do it later on down the road when you need to have that mentality and that killer instinct?
Yeah, it's the mindset, right? The mindset is it doesn't matter who we're playing, it's about us, right? When we have a team on the ropes, we can't let up because, it's Akron, right? Because if you let up and say, look at the Chicago Bears last night. They had the Vikings on the ropes. Right there, ready to go. And they let up just a little bit, and that was just enough for them to go and win the football game. That's not going to happen against Akron. But if we do that against Penn State, it sure might. Right? If we've got Penn State in the deep water and all of a sudden we feel like we got to go into this safe mode, don't lose the game type of thing, that's just enough daylight that Penn State might need to come back and beat us. Right? And so that's what Coach Rhule's trying to get at there. It's just about us. It's about how we approach things, not the tournament. Like, it's nameless, faceless opponents every single week. 1-0. It doesn't matter if it's Houston Christian or the Chicago Bears. We have to approach the week every single right way. We have to approach practice. We have to approach every rep of the game. Every single snap matters. And if that's the attack and the killer mindset that he can instill in all 127 guys that are on this football team, that's a step in a huge right direction for building a winning program.
All right, well, you wanted to see some explosive plays. I'd say you got some.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. We still had calls on Big Red Reaction of like, are we being too safe? Are we not letting Dylan push the ball down the field? I was like, what are we talking about? Right, like 13 different receivers caught a ball, and a lot of them were like 22 yards, 18 yards. And the more I watch this Dana Holgorsen offense, the more I understand it. Right, I think week 1, I was really starting to be like, okay, I need to understand what this is. And after I watched week 2, I fully understand what the Dana Holgorsen offense is. It's the intermediate passing game and allowing your athletes to run with the football in their hand, because that's high success plays, right? Everyone loves the top 10, ESPN, throw it 50 yards down the field, let the receiver go moss it over a DB. Like, that's cool and that's great. But those are not high percentage completion throws. Those are sometimes 50-50 balls, right? Those are sometimes the wind gusted a little hard and now the safety's able to get under it and it's an interception. It's a turnover-worthy play. What I see from this Dana Holgorsen offense and from Dylan Raiola is it's high percentage completion throws, on schedule throws, getting it to your athletes in space and then letting them go be athletes. And I am A-okay with that. I think that's a great game plan in today's era of college football, when it's really easy to take the cheese and want to be the high-flying, throw it down the field offense. I'd be much happier with the efficient offense and picking our chances to go take shots down the field, but taking what the defense gives us, staying in front of the sticks, high percentage completion, good running game, right? I'll take that over this explosive, spread it out type of offense that people seem to be calling for whatever reason, 10 times out of 10.
Well, and it allows you to manage things when you need to. I think you can dictate the pace of which you want to play, which in the Big Ten it calls for that. And where, I've seen, again, coming from what I saw some of those high flying offenses at Oklahoma, that when it came time to manage time manage and clock manage, they weren't as good at that, And so I think being able to do both is important in this conference.
It's a great point, Jessica. You come from, like, with the Big 12, like the old school Big 12, it was like a race to 70, right? Like, who can get to 70 first? Defense, never heard of her, right? You just keep rolling along. But when it comes to playing in the Big 10, field position and time of possession usually dictate wins in late October and November. Right. And so when you have a defense like Nebraska's defense that lost a lot of pieces, right, trying to find their way, who their identity is, the last thing you want to do is go out there and just give 3 and outs nonstop across the board. Right. And just keep putting them out there, keep putting it out there. You want them to have time on the sideline to go over the adjustments, go over what we're going to do for the next time. Let them catch their breath with some of the younger players, and then keep the pressure on the opposing team's offense. Right. Because there's nothing, and I've been on this side of the fence. When you're on offense and the other team is just controlling the game, dictating the tempo. They're going up and down the field at the pace at which they want to go, and they're scoring touchdowns at the end of the drive. It puts so much pressure on you as an offense, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, we might only have 4 possessions in this game, right? We have to make sure that we go out there, and that can just add a layer of pressure where all of a sudden you get one negative play, and now it's 2nd and 11. You're like, oh my gosh, if we turn this over, we're not going to touch the ball again in this quarter. And so I love what the team aspect of this Husker football team is building, right? An offense that takes what the defense gives them, efficient in what they do, a defense that is high flying, high energy, confusing to a lot of offenses, and then a special teams that is a weapon. Yes, you heard me. A weapon. Finally, it's something that we can rely on, and I'm not holding my breath for every extra point or every punt, which, sorry, Archie Wilson's family, I feel really bad for you guys.
Oh, they're okay with it. They are more than okay.
I know
with
they're
it.
okay with it, but I wasn't okay with it. I was like, these dudes came halfway across the world. Can we just punt on 2nd down or something?
They saw him last week. They're going to be here this week, and they're going to be here for Michigan. So,
well, we might not punt again this week, so maybe Michigan. But, it's just one of those things where we're coming together as a team. And how many times, Jessica, have we sat on this show and been like, hey, the defense did enough to win, or the offense did enough to win in the defense, or we turned it over on special teams? Like, we are becoming a complete team. And when you can become a complete team, you can compete with anyone. And we're taking care of the football. We're taking the football away. I just love the trajectory in which the entire Husker football team is going, not just being excited about what one side of the ball is doing and the other side not.
So I wanted to bring up special teams too, because somebody texted in on the show last night, snap, hold, kick. And you and I have talked about this. I mean, there were times in the last couple of years that we're holding our breaths, and it just, we're not talking about it. It's the way that unit is carrying themselves. It's different. Then you talk about what Ja'Cory did in the punt return game. In one game, he had more individually than the whole team did last year. You blocked the field goal with Riley Van Poppel. What is it about Mike Ekeler? You know him well, that he has instilled this kind of attention to detail, the confidence, the swagger that in every phase of special teams, not just a couple, but all of them, that it feels different with this group.
You remember those old commercials with the Energizer Bunny? It just keeps going and going and going. That is Mike Ekeler, right? Like, Coach Ekeler has an energy reserve that never quits. And special teams is so much about energy, right? It's about being excited about a downed punt inside the 20. It's excited about a big tackle on a kickoff return, about a really good point on snap, hold, kick on an extra point. And he finds a way to get his teammates and get his special teams guys to buy into that excitement every single snap. Because I've always said that special teams is kind of like the emotion of the team, right? When things go really well, everyone's super excited. But when special teams goes poorly, it can deflate you as quickly as anything, right? You have a 13 play, 80-yard touchdown drive, and you're super excited, and then you miss the extra point. It's just like a pinprick in the balloon. Everything's gone, right? But when the special teams is clicking and they're bringing momentum and they're bringing that type of energy, it's contagious to the offense and the defense, right? A special teams play where you pin a punt inside the 10-yard line, the defense is juiced running onto the football field, right? You get a punt return from Barney. That's a 20-yard punt return, and he flipped the field, and now we skipped 2 first downs. We're starting the ball at the 40. The offense is juiced running out onto the field. The special teams is the heartbeat of the team. It can build you up and it can tear you down. And so if we're not talking about the special teams, that's because the heartbeat is strong and the heartbeat is good. And that's a lot of credit to Mike Ekeler, and it's a lot of credit to the players that are out there that aren't every down starters, that aren't big-time contributors on offense and defense, but know their role and are happy with their role and then succeeding in their role.
I feel like I know you pretty well, but I've learned something about you this year. You're pretty good at sound effects. You had the K-State Wildcat. You've got that down, that pin prick and poof. You had that down?
Yep. I mean, I'm an animated guy, but I'm more animated when we're playing and we're winning football games. I love it. And it's a good thing Big Red Reaction is not televised, because I'm a very animated guy when you bring up the 90s.
Hey, but Riley Van Poppel is funny because I talked to him after the game, and he was so fired up that he blocked the punt. He was like, I kind of forgot maybe I should probably go get the football.
Well, usually when you block the kick, it's one of those things where you're like, Peter, don't touch it. Everyone just run away, right? Because it is a dead ball. But, it's that type of mindset where we're not going out on PAT block. We're not just going out there. We're going out there to block the PAT, right? And we're not going out on punt return. We're going out to block the punt, right? And that's just a different mindset and a different shift of how you just approach special teams, right? We're not just approaching special teams as it's just a phase of the game. We're approaching special teams as we're going to dominate this phase of the game. Because if you can dominate on special teams, look what Iowa's done for years with just anemic quarterback after anemic quarterback. They punt well, they kick well, and they flip the field and play great defense. Well, we have a non-anemic quarterback. We have a great quarterback and a really good offensive scheme. If we can set ourselves up to only have to drive the ball 45 or 50 yards instead of having to go the length of the field every time, we're going to score a lot of points. And that all solely falls on the special teams unit. So I love what we're doing on special teams. I think Mike Ekeler was a home run hire. And I mean, if we win a lot of games this year, he's going to be a reason why.
Valentino's, a slice of home you just can't get anywhere else. What started with a treasured family recipe has become a Nebraska tradition for over 68 years. Proud to be the official pizza of the Huskers. Let's talk about the offensive line. I think it's pretty settled. I think Gunnar Gatula has settled into that.
Called it.
Called
it, by the way.
You called it at practice when you went out to practice early on. You like what you saw of the young guy, and so he's locked it down. But it looks like they might still utilize Turner. And you know this, but can I tell you how much of an effort it takes for an offensive lineman to switch their pads on the sideline?
I mean, I wouldn't do it.
Or switch their jersey.
I would just be like, just get me a rip-away one or something. Like, get me a tear-away penny. Like, get me a tearaway, because I mean, putting my pads on was a process.
It took like 5 people.
It's a process to put my pads on. Like, I had my own special guy that would help me. Like, it was a 1, 2, 3, suck in and put them on and then latch them in. Like, I mean, hats off for them doing it. But I don't think people understand how tight those things are put on, let alone I used to put sticky tape on the pads themselves so that you couldn't pull the jersey off the pad. So you're fighting Velcro and tight tape. I mean, that's going to be a hard thing to do, but I like the idea of getting the extra lineman in there on short yardage and goal line type stuff to get that extra blocker in the package.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, moving forward, I mean, what can that provide for this offense?
Yeah, first of all, it provides Michigan and it provides Houston Christian and everyone else on our schedule to practice against that stuff, right? They have to start working on packages that are like, hey, when the extra lineman comes in, this is what we have to check to and get to as a personnel package on defense, right? So that's meaningful snaps during the week that they're working on that, and they're not working on Ja'Cory Barney going across the middle or Luke Lindenmeyer leaking out, right? So it just causes teams to have to prepare for more stuff, which is what you want to do every week. You want to put a little bit more, a new wrinkle in, so that the next week opponent has to figure out how to defend against that. And it also gives us an advantage. If you can have an extra tight end, nothing against our tight ends, but linemen predominantly are better run blockers than tight ends, right? So it allows you to maybe capture the edge a little bit more, or hold off on the backside, or get a guy out in space and have him on a little guy and a defensive back instead of a linebacker that a tight end would usually be blocking. So I like the wrinkle. I like what it's going to do, and I think it just adds another layer to our run game.
I also like, too, that if Turner's not on that starting group, it gives him an opportunity to get out there and impact the game, too.
Yeah, he's played a lot of football for this team. He's broke his body a lot for this team. So, he's a senior. He's been through a lot. So anytime you can find a way of like, hey, man, you've got beat out by the young guy, it happens, but we're still going to utilize you. We still care about you. We still appreciate everything you've done. I'm all about getting those kind of guys on the field.
All right, let's flip things over to the defensive line. And I know they even talked about that today. Coach Butler did the run defense. Still a work in progress, but you saw some other guys getting out there, the Cade Petschok, the true freshman, maybe trying to utilize some guys in some different ways there on the defensive line. But I think it's just such a young group. It's just going to take a few weeks for them to really get to where they need to be able to match up against some of these Big Ten offensive lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a run stopping game by committee right now. That's if there's one negative glaring thing that, I'm kind of looking at right now for this Husker group, it's the lack of sacks and the lack of the ability to rely on a guy in the middle to just stop the run, right? Like, we relied on Nash Hutmaker to blow the center up and stop that point of attack and allow Bullock and those guys to run to the ball. We don't have that guy up front right now. And there's guys getting close and scratching the surface, but we need someone to be the relied upon run stuffer up front and to let our linebackers and let Shavers and Wright go do their thing. And so I think we're still trying to figure out what that looks like. Is it we line up in this front and everyone penetrates? Is it we line up in this front and we stunt and we twist and we move, right? And that's how we be disruptive. But the thing I liked about what we did from a defensive standpoint is we never let Akron get a beat on what we were doing. It was different looks. It was different personnel groupings. It was different people running in different spots. And Akron seemed like they were guessing a lot of the times. It was like, well, we think they're going to go here, and then they guessed wrong a lot, right? So again, it's a complicated defense to try and prepare for, right? And it's different than you're going to see against most Big Ten teams. So that gives us the reliability there, but we need some guys in the middle there to really step up and just say, hey, I'm going to eat this double team. I'm going to disrupt. I'm going to create a new line of scrimmage because we're going to play a lot better teams than Akron.
Okay, so I was going to ask you too, just if you're Michigan and you're starting to look at the Nebraska tape, what does that do? When you talk about keeping Akron off on their heels, what does that do for a team like Michigan who's starting to prepare for Nebraska and looking at this game film?
Yeah, if I'm Michigan right now and I look at Nebraska's defense, I'm keeping it simple on offense, right? We used to have an acronym, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? You just let's not try and do too much on offense and make them stop what we're good at. Right, because if I've started my Michigan study, and I'm not looking over Houston Christian, no one freak out, right? I've started a little bit of the Michigan study. They're a physical group up front, right? And so they're going to rely upon that physical group to say, hey, yeah, they're going to stunt and they're going to move, but we're going to beat them with physicality. Right, we're just going to run and zone. All of us are running on the same angle. We're on our tracks. We're not going to men. If I'm running right and I have the A gap, I'll hit whoever shows up in the A gap because someone's going to show up there, right? And they're just going to continue to try and keep it simple against our defense and first and second down. And then once you get to third down, it's a whole nother can of worms of the blitz pickups and the pass protection IDs and that type of thing. But I really do think Michigan's going to try and keep it simple with simple run schemes from a zone concept to a zone read. And then in the third downs, try and get in third and manageable where you can give Bryce Underwood a chance to run with his legs and create if that pass protection does break down.
140 for our guy, Emmett Johnson, and 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. And I know he had the fumble, but he responded to that. But another big day for Emmett. What are you seeing out of him here in these first 2 games that's different, I guess, and has grown in his game than what you've seen in the past?
Yeah, I think he's seeing the field a lot better. That was one of the things I talked about after Cincinnati was the ability to press the hole and allow the cutback to come. And I felt like he did a better job of this week. Obviously it helps not playing against Dante Corleone in the middle there where the offensive line can really get a good shove and allow that running back to get to the heels of the defender. But I do think that Emmett Johnson's seeing the field very well. I think he's seeing where to press the hole, where the cutback is, right? And then finishing runs physically. Right, he's not a huge back. He's not Dante Dowdle, right? He's not a guy that's going to just continue to be the hammer and just completely run over Rico Dowdell, right? Did I say Dante?
Dante Dowdell.
Dante Dowdell. Well, I don't know why I said Rico, right? But Dante Dowdell was the hammer, right? He was the hammer and the world was a nail, right? And you have to have some of that there too. But I think Emmett is understanding that, hey, I still have to be a physical back in the Big Ten, even though I'm not the biggest back in the world. And I like the way he's finishing runs falling forward and not backwards.
All right, and you talked about this kind of game getting the opportunity for some young guys. I think you saw there's some talent waiting in the wings, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent waiting in the wings. And as always, the backup quarterback is going to become the most favored position from the Husker fan group. But, it's a good thing to see it, right? You guys have got to see Latif in practice, right? The coaches have got to see Latif in practice. But as a fan, you're always slightly concerned, like, if Dylan goes down, can this offense continue to operate with the next guy up? And I think what we saw from Latif going in is, yes, this offense will continue to operate. Will it look a little different? Yes, but he is capable of allowing this offense to move the ball up and down the field. He can throw the ball to the receivers. He can run with his legs, right? And that's really what you just want to see out of the backup quarterback, is not just this huge cliff fall from starter to backup. And that's what I liked about a lot of the position group backups that came out of the offensive line. Some of those guys that got in played really well, right? You got Quentin Ives that came in and ran the ball well. You've got Nelson that ran the ball well. Like, you've just had a lot of guys perform at high levels. And that's what you need to see from those guys, because we're going to need a lot of those guys throughout the year. It's a war of attrition, right? The idea that we're not going to have anyone get dinged down the stretch here is a fallacy. And so making sure that those guys that we believe in and that we're going to need to call on first meaningful minutes are not going to be against Penn State or Michigan State or an Iowa at the end of the year, but they've got some snaps in Memorial Stadium against a different colored opponent. Like, that's a really good thing, and they all performed very well. And I think a lot of that was the fact of how Matt Rhule challenged that group at halftime.
All right, who gets your game ball?
Oh, I don't know. Everyone. I mean, I think I'm just going to give the ball to all 120 people because there's really very little bit of negatives in this game, right? It's hard to pinpoint. Like, I want to save my game ball for Dylan Raiola when he's going against a legitimate person, right? And he's going to have to put the team on his back and go win a game in the fourth quarter there, right? I want to save my game ball for the offensive line when they pitch a shutout and no sacks, no hits, no hurries against a Michigan State down the road. So I think this is his team game ball, right? And that happens a lot in the NFL too, is like everyone contributed in this win. Everyone played a part from special teams, defense, and offense. Like, this was a full team win, a full team dominant win. So my game ball goes to everyone.
Okay, and then, last thing I got just going into Houston Christian, which you had talked about very well. It might be a similar kind of scenario that was happening last week, but your last non-conference game, what are some things that this team probably is focusing on that if the opponent, it might not give you a really close one-score game, hopefully not, but what are some areas that they need to make sure that they hone in on, tweak, fine-tune before they face Michigan in a week from Saturday?
Yeah, I want us to continue to get everything on tape offensively that we want to get on tape, right? I mean, it's one thing to do it against the scout team, right? It's another thing to do it against an actual opponent, right? So whether that's the screen game or whether that's the downfield shot plays, like, get on tape whatever you want to get on tape to make Michigan prepare for that type of stuff, right?
Wait, why is that important? You said that a couple times now.
Yeah, because I think that there's this idea of, like, we're holding stuff for Michigan. Right? Like, yeah, we'll hold our gimmicks and we'll hold some trick plays or some new formations against that we'll pull up against them. But you want Michigan to have to prepare for the most amount possible because there's only so many reps in the week. There's only so many hours in the day. And you want those GAs for Michigan grinding the midnight oil going, okay, when they line up in this formation, they run 8 different things, right? Well, which one do we want to practice against? Right? Okay, when they line up in this is the route tree concept that they ran against Cincinnati, but then they ran this different route tree against Houston Christian, and they ran a different route tree against Akron. And so which one do you prepare for, right? The more you can put on tape as an offense, the more that the opposing team has to prepare for. It's
and then
not
the less
as much
good
hiding.
they become at defending it because you
Correct.
can't practice
And then they start chasing ghosts, right? Then they start chasing ghosts, being like, well, we think this is what they're going to do here. We think that's what they're going to do here. And then you come out and you hit them with something completely different, right? It's a play that you ran out of a 3-by-1 set 2 weeks in a row. And then all of a sudden you come out in your 2-by-2 set and you think, oh, this is what we're going to do. And then you run the play out of 3-by-1 with a motion or something at the pre-snap that gets you to that final formation. The more you can put on tape, the more stress you put on a defense for preparation.
Okay, so, and then you were continuing on. So put more tape on tape. What else that you're looking
Defense,
for?
we got to get the quarterbacks on the ground, right? 1 sack through 2 games, not okay. Right? You have to affect the passer early and often in this league. You have to get to his feet. You have to get him off of his spot. You have to get him on the ground. And so I want to see this front four. I'm looking at Winari. I'm looking at Lenhart. Like, I'm looking at these dudes going, get to the quarterback and finish, right? Winari had some really good pass rushes in this game, but he didn't finish at the top, right? The elite pass rushers in college and the NFL finish with the quarterback on the ground. And we need to find some of those elite pass rushers. We have the talent, we have the athletic ability on the edges, but we have to affect the quarterback more than we have in these first 2 games in the passing game.
All right, so this is the week that you are doing the tailgater of the game.
I am.
And you got Big Red Reaction again, but we said it last week. You can be bribed, right?
100%. I'll be running around on the old Husker Gator there.
What are you going to be looking for in a tailgate? Like, what are you?
I want to see the diehards. I want to see the dudes that, like, slept in their car and, like, they've rolled out of bed and fired up the Blackstone and they've got the pancake and the eggs out there at 7 a.m. ready to go. They've got College Game Day on the satellite dish there. Like, I want to see the diehards because those are what make the Nebraska fan base so great. The people that show up, rain or shine, 10 wins or 3 wins, like, they're there for it all the time. And so that is what I will be looking for.
All right, good stuff as always. We'll look forward to hearing you on Big Red Reaction. And then again, we'll be back here next week on the Sideline Slice to break it all down and preview the big one coming up against Michigan. For Jeremiah Sirles, I'm Jessica Coody. This has been the Sideline Slice presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers.
Go Big Red.
Valentino's treasured Italian family recipes have been passed down for generations and still locally owned and operated. Valentino's proudly serving Nebraskans in Memorial Stadium for over 30 years.